nigga hit me and asked me to see if you would fight Sean. Nigga want me to fight Eon. And he was like, see if your homeboy Poe will fight Sean. I said, man, if the bag ain't right, Poe ain't even talking about this dumb shit. But I'll whoop Eon ass if y'all want me to. You know what I'm saying?
Who the fuck is Sean?
Sean Branch.
Oh, Sean Branch?
That's what he said. He like said, I'm supposed to fight Eon. Poe's supposed to fight Sean Branch. And it's supposed to be somebody else on the car. I said, man, Poe not even about to talk to me about this shit unless you motherfuckers got $500,000 or better or something, man. You gotta be tripping. That shit ain't in his...
Listen, $500,000, and we want some of the earnings.
Right.
We want a percentage of the earnings. Because you already know what we gonna do.
I told the nigga, don't call me again unless that money right, man. Straight up.
And I know the promoter. I'm gonna have to plug him in with you. I don't know him, but I met him the day I was about to get on the Rambo page.
Juanito.
What's up, DC? It's your boy Taco Montana, Northeast. You know who it is. Southeast in the building, Northwest in the building, Southwest in the building. Northeast, stand up, niggas.
I don't know if anyone ever explained to you that DC is broken down into 4 sections: Southwest, Southeast, Northwest, and Northeast. Within each 4 sections of DC, certain names gonna always ring out. Always. I don't care if they did it or they didn't do it. Certain names gonna always ring out, and there are a great deal of names that's gonna always represent one section of the city. So when you're talking about Wayne Perry, you're talking Southwest. That was his neighborhood. Okay, Sean Branch, you're talking Northeast Montana. Mario Harris, you're talking Uptown. Pop, Southeast.
Whole life.
The real Sean Lante Branch story. The misrepresentation of a Teflon suspect. Let's get it.
You've seen a number of murder raps over the years, but tonight Sean Branch is headed to prison. Jen Fox has more on the 3-year-old charges that finally stuck to a man dubbed the Teflon Killer. Teflon Sean, they nicknamed the diminutive Sean Branch, until the day the 23-year-old Northeast man beat 8 out of 10 charges against him. Today, he got 26 years for the murder of Michael Green. Never to see him in the street again would have... Prosecutor Karen Rue called a Branch a killer who belongs with other killers, not on the streets to kill again. She asked for the maximum.
This is clearly a deliberate killing. It's a killing that by his own words he said he wanted to do. I'm here to bust somebody, he said when he went out on the street with a gun.
If you follow Sean Branch, then you already know the mystique surrounding Sean Lante Branch has grown tremendously over social media and continues to grow with each interview he's given. But there's a large misconception as to who he really is. From a closeted bisexual entrepreneur to a murderous ex-felon with a thirst for blood, a jailhouse snitch, all the way to a cool punk who learned the way of the gun after being bullied and experiencing other traumatic experiences during childhood.
Nigga, on that motherfucker, I guess he came sideways because he probably was down in jail for 25 years. And you know what I'm saying? And I guess I wasn't in contact with him. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know. That shit sound funny to me. But you know how a nigga come out be mad, and you got other niggas showing they nigga love because of what they did, and he come out saying he was the man. You know, that shit is crazy. That nigga wasn't no man. Got around Montana, that's what I'm saying. He wasn't no scary dude like he's saying, man. I don't know where look, he tried to sell his book, so the nigga can see what he want about himself to that book, but you know, I'm on here because the nigga called my name out, and nah, you can't fuck minds like that. He know better than that, so yeah. This is live, and he'll hear it in person. He know where I'm at, and I know he at. Ain't no motherfucking problem. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Earlier you told me a story, man, about an addict. That's all I'm gonna say right now. You mind telling that story?
Yeah. Since the little nigga, man, you know what I'm saying, I had my little homework on his ass. His ass, with my man Hario, was up in the attic one day. The nigga was crying, talking about, man, you gonna get them niggas that bullied him. So he was being bullied in motherfucking Taft.
And there you have it. Lante was bullied at Taft. Found in an attic crying because he was being bullied as a 7th grader. Could this have been the turning point in Lante's life as a criminal? We'll never know. Only he'll be able to tell us so. But prosecutor at the time, Deborah Long Doyle, and executive assistant to U.S. Attorney Eric H. Holder, Jr., believed that people had been afraid of Mr. Branch for quite some time. Assistant U.S. Attorney at the time, June M. Jeffries, calls him a little piece of work. Now, one D.C. detective calls him a dangerous kid. Another, a neighborhood terror. But lastly, the last D.C. homicide detective summed his answer up in a mere 2 words. He said Sean Lante Branch is a punk. A self-described mellow, average young black man, physically unimposing, standing at 5'4" and weighing only 135 pounds. Now, maybe it's just me, but it is hard for this journalist to view Lante as this hardened contract killer or this cold-blooded federal inmate who used to run the DC car. Maybe it's just me, or maybe not.
Word. Nah, he told a story about a dude named L.A. Roy, man. I think what he said, he robbed the nigga L.A. Roy crib or something like that.
Yeah. He say he took the bag. Yeah, let me tell you how that, man. That nigga ain't even really know Roy like that. You know, he met Roy through my man Bull. So my man Bull was fucking with him, and you know, this nigga did some more stupid shit, man. He went out there and took the motherfucking money rate. And so the niggas came up in the hood, man, that night, man. And, you know, everybody had paintbrushes, but he came with an infrared beam on his paintbrush. He was looking for that little nigga. And then, you know, we asked him what was up. He was like, yeah, that nigga took $30,000 on my motherfucking house. So I was like, damn. You know, and then so the nigga, he caught up with the nigga gave the motherfucking money back, man. I'm like, what the fuck you do that for, man? So I'm like, how the fuck you gonna take some shit from a nigga and then give it back? He ain't from here, man. Brother, you supposed to took that. You know what? I'm your sucker. Well, what happened when a nigga come and take it back from you, sucker?
So again, we're faced with the question, who is Sean Branch? A cool punk or cold-blooded? I once interviewed an ex-DC homicide detective by the name of Mitch Creeden, who consequently charged Sean Branch with murder. Here's what he had to say about the situation.
I heard a notable, a notorious underworld figure from Washington, D.C. by the name of Sean Branch say something similar, like they would basically knock New Yorkers off or whatnot because they get to work, and then they'll knock them off because they ain't need them anymore or whatnot. Have you ever investigated Sean Branch or been involved in any story, any of his cases or whatnot?
I don't want to speak on that. I mean, I did have a case with Sean. I'm not going to speak on that because me and Sean we've talked about it, and I don't want to create any type of problem moving forward. I mean, I have respect. I have respect for guys, even if I lock them up for murder. They out there. I don't like to say I don't hold grudges against anybody. Yes, I did charge Sean Branch for murder before, but I don't want to get into the details out of respect because I know a lot of people listen to what I'll say. They're going to tell you, I don't want people to take what I say the wrong way. I don't want to create no investigations. I don't want to do any of that kind of stuff. I always maintain a great deal of respect for people. So when people ask me about certain people, I make sure I don't say anything that's going to open up a can of worms.
The way he answered my question gave me pause. I asked point blank, have you ever investigated Sean Branch or been involved in any of his cases? To which ex-DC homicide detective Mitch Creeden replies, and I quote, I don't want to speak on that. I did have a case with Sean, but I'm not going to speak on that because me and Sean have talked about it, and I don't want to create any problems moving forward. Now, he goes on to say, I've got respect for guys even though I've locked them up for murder. And he doesn't want to get into the details out of respect for the murderer and not the victims' families, which led me to believe that he didn't want to create a problem for himself. So when asked about certain individuals, as he said, he makes sure he doesn't say anything that'll open a can of worms. Now, this is fairly odd behavior for a homicide detective, X or no, to side with the murderers and not the victims and their families that may or may not still be seeking justice for their families' losses. Yet and still, there you have it again. Two completely different representations of a man who, by his mother's own account, is a poorly educated target. His mother, ex-warehouse worker Yvonne Shorter, describes her son as a nice, good guy who's never made it to high school due to being locked up so much as a juvenile. Now wait a minute, let's make this make sense. So, in the 7th grade, he was crying in an attic, telling a friend that he was going to act crazy because he was being bullied, but he never made it to high school due to being locked up so much as a juvenile? So are we to believe that he became a neighborhood terror between the years of, or the grades of 8th and 9th grade? That's interesting, isn't it? That's just as interesting to me as Mitch Creeden's answer. So since he didn't want to discuss the details of Sean's case, I found a few for myself. Much like Alpo, Sean Lante Branch was said to have robbed and murdered his friends and people he'd known. Not a contract killer traveling from state to state or even county to county. Did you know that almost every crime in which he's been implicated occurred within the walking distance of Montana terrorists? A public housing complex near his home in the Brooklyn neighborhood. Hey, here's a fun fact. Besides once being indicted on charges of obstruction of justice, Sean Branch has been charged in 4 homicides and accused in 3 other cases of shootings of at least 5 people in total, 2 of which were wounded. The government has charged him in 10 cases with crimes ranging from first-degree murder and illegal handgun possession, 8 of which were in Branch's favor, 2 murders remaining unsolved. Now, prosecutor Kevin F. Flynn at the time sought permission to use locally produced gangster rap music album by P.O.P. as evidence, as Branch boasts of ruthless and violence in his music, saying, "Now I'm the little one, but my gun is a lot bigger. I'm a little ass nigger, living by the trigger." Now I ask you, is that a cold-blooded, calculated killer or a cool punk with a gun? You be the judge.
300,000. Man, let's get that. Man, we gonna get that. Yeah, I'm gonna look out for y'all. You gonna take 30,000? You pussy ass nigga. Fuck you, take 30. Take it all.
Word.
Yeah. one brick of the motherfucking white town and shit make $1 million. That's what I said, man. How the fuck you gonna tell some young niggas how to get some money when he don't even know you in a fucking bank vault and you go in there and you petty and you just say, let me get 30,000. What the fuck is wrong with you? Nigga, wasn't nothing been left in that motherfucking house. Nothing. And Roy knew he did it because the stupid motherfucker fed the snake. That's how Roy knew it, because he had a big ass, I think, boa constrictor man. So they know a lot of motherfucking people ain't gonna fuck with them snakes. I don't fuck with snakes. So this nigga, he likes snakes, so he fed the motherfucking snake. And that's how they knew his pussy ass took the money.
And there you have it. Again, two conflicting representations of a man. I mean, on one hand, you have him being a feared menace that ex-DC homicide detective Mitch Creeden refused to get into the details about. And on the other hand, you have ex-DC kingpin Taco Montana calling him a pussy nigga who returned a man's goods that he had previously stolen. So I ask you again, cold-blooded, calculated contract killer? You think so, or you think not? But a cool punk who learned the way of the gun after being bullied at Taft and experiencing some traumatic experiences during childhood. Now, does that sound a little bit better? Maybe, maybe not. Well, to this journalist, personally, it fits. Now, here's the closest account I could find of his crimes and the details and the victims and time frames. Let's take a look at that together.
The Teflon Suspect by Paul Duggan, March 27, 1994. In an unrelenting effort to put Sean Lante Branch in prison, district authorities have filed reams of court documents in the last 6 years describing him as a murderous drug gang enforcer with a reputation so frightening that few people will dare testify against him. At the mere mention of his name, police officers and prosecutors roll their eyes and sigh in exasperation. That little piece of work, said Assistant U.S. Attorney June M. Jeffries, who has tried mightily to convict Branch of murder. People have been afraid of him for a long, long time, added Prosecutor Deborah Longdoyle, an executive assistant to U.S. Attorney Eric H. Holder Jr. He's a dangerous, dangerous kid, said a D.C. homicide detective. The neighborhood terror, said another. A punk, said a third. Yet after countless hours of police legwork, and after a tortuous series of prosecutions sometimes featuring unusually zealous tactics, authorities in Washington have managed to convict Branch of nothing since his first adult arrest in 1988. They have charged him in 10 cases with crimes ranging from first-degree murder to illegal handgun possession, and 8 of the cases have ended in Branch's favor. The other 2, both homicide cases, are unresolved. In every case, Branch, now 23, has maintained he is innocent, and he has never been found guilty of intimidating a government witness. Early this month, in fact, he was acquitted of a charge that he tried to kill a man who had implicated him in a slaying. But victims and witnesses, familiar with the reality of life on the streets, consistently have declined to testify against him, fearing his alleged reputation for violence, Jeffries and other prosecutors said. The recurring problem has so hampered the U.S. Attorney's Office that last year, after a key witness to a homicide implicated Branch in a police interview but refused to appear before a jury, prosecutors took the rare step of putting the witness, Arlen J. Buddha, on trial for criminal contempt of court. He'd rather go to jail for life than testify, said a lawyer for Buddha, who was convicted and is to be sentenced next month. The reluctance of witnesses to testify, authorities said, illustrates what former U.S. Attorney J.B. Stevens called the culture of fear in many neighborhoods including Branch's in Northeast Washington, where threats and violence against witnesses have become commonplace since the late 1980s, a byproduct of the city's feverish murder rate. A Washington Post computer-aided analysis of all 1,286 slayings in the district in 1988, 1989, and 1990, the first 3 years of the surge in killings, found that murder in the nation's capital often goes unpunished. Detectives and the U.S. Attorney's Office, overwhelmed by the body count, managed to win murder or manslaughter convictions in only about 1 of every 4 of the homicide cases. Whether scared, apathetic, or bound by the street ethos against snitching, unhelpful witnesses are among the toughest obstacles hindering D.C. police and prosecutors as they try to build solid cases. Authorities said that is part of the reason that winning a conviction of Branch is so important to them. Every time Sean beats a case, one prosecutor said, the word goes right out on the street, and people say, well, see, there's another one they couldn't make. Why should I come forward? Branch said any reputation he has for violence is undeserved. I describe myself as a mellow, average, young black man trying to make it in this world, he said recently from the D.C. jail, where he was awaiting a murder trial that began last week in D.C. Superior Court. As in all of his cases, he has pleaded not guilty. I think it's unfair for them to be keeping him locked up all the time like this. It's harassment because all these charges, they're just the lies of other people, said Branch's girlfriend, Kimberly Davis. He's an easy target, said his mother, Yvonne Shorter, a 38-year-old warehouse worker. If they have an open case, they say, let's put it on Branch. But Sean is a nice guy, a good guy, you know. Although physically unimposing, he is 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighs 135 pounds. Branch is described in court documents as a feared enforcer and contract killer on the streets around Montana Terrace, a public housing complex near his home in the Brooklyn neighborhood. Almost every crime in which he has been implicated occurred within walking distance of the complex. Besides once being indicted on a charge of obstructing justice, he has been charged in 4 homicides and accused in 3 other cases of shooting at a total of 5 people, 2 of whom were wounded. His only conviction, for carrying a .45 caliber handgun illegally, came in Maryland, where he served 3 months in jail under the name Sean Belzer, according to federal court records in Baltimore. Teflon Sean quipped more than a few people who know him. He's certainly not an angel, but he's also not nearly the monster they make him out to be, said Bernard S. Grimm, Branch's lawyer in recent months. The government is just caught up in its own failures. The more they go after Branch, the more unsuccessful they are, the more determined they are to get him. Branch, who was not interviewed in person but responded to a list of questions after consulting with Grimm, said that the witnesses they use against me are drug dealers or drug users. People will say anything to get themselves out of trouble. They lie or whatever. And then when it's time to come to court, they don't want to come to court and lie. He grew up in the 2000 block of Douglas Street Northeast, a working-class neighborhood less than half a mile from the crumbling asphalt landscape of Montana Terrace, a jumble of graffiti-marred, 3- and 4-story block-house apartment buildings, some of them burned and boarded up. Branch gravitated to the complex as a youth and found trouble. Yvonne Shorter said her only son, now an unmarried father of 2, never did make it to high school. He was locked up so much as a juvenile. As an adult, awaiting court hearings on various charges in the district, he has lived behind bars for 37 of the last 65 months, including the past year and a half, shuttling in a corrections department bus cage from the jail to Superior Court and back nearly 100 times. Police and prosecutors like it that way. In fact, twice in recent months, in what authorities acknowledged is an unusual step, they purposely timed the filing of new murder charges against Branch to coincide with the demise of existing cases, to ensure that he would stay in jail. UFFOLO 12F 1988, the Cook case in the eyes of the court system. Branch officially reached manhood on September 30, 1988, 2 months before his 18th birthday, when a district homicide detective obtained an arrest warrant charging him as an adult with second-degree murder while armed. The victim, Patrick Cook, 25, had been stabbed the previous June near the Montana Terrace Recreation Center in what investigators believe was a drug-related slaying. Detective Herman Johnson wrote in his warrant application that Branch had been identified as the assailant by a witness who stated he has known Sean Branch for 2 or 3 years. Besides the man quoted in Johnson's affidavit, detectives talked with other possible witnesses who they believed had information about the stabbing, but in a pattern that became familiar in Branch's cases and is common in the cases of many accused killers. Even people who initially were helpful grew increasingly uncooperative in the months after Branch's arrest, prosecutors said. I remember they were scared to death of Sean Branch, said prosecutor Long Doyle. With Branch jailed and denied bond, Long Doyle presented evidence to a grand jury, which indicted Branch on a first-degree murder charge in April 1989, nearly a year after the slaying. First-degree murder is punishable by up to 30 years to life in prison. It took a long time, because it was difficult first to find the witnesses, then to get them in here, Long Doyle recalled, adding that a police sergeant basically had to go and drag them in. And even once we got them down here, they were not very forthcoming with us. Branch's trial in the Cook homicide also was slowed while authorities searched fruitlessly for absent witnesses. It eventually ended with the jury deadlocked, and days later, in early January 1990, Branch was freed on $25,000 bond to await a new trial. He was arrested twice more in the next 7 months, beginning with a handgun charge of which he eventually was acquitted. The second charge, in early July 1990, involved a shooting the previous month in the 3100 block of Rhode Island Avenue NE. The victim, Vincent Knight, then 18, wounded in the buttocks, told police that he recognized Branch as one of the gunmen, adding that he has known Branch for years from the neighborhood, according to a detective's warrant application. But a few days later, Knight recanted the positive identification. All of a sudden, he couldn't be sure it was Sean Branch, recalled a detective involved in the case. He said he just wanted to drop the whole matter anyway. The U.S. Attorney's Office, on July 18, 1990, had little choice but to withdraw the charge of assault with a dangerous weapon, a crime punishable by up to 10 years in prison. The dismissal came just 5 days before the scheduled start of Branch's second Superior Court trial in the Cook stabbing. But that prosecution also went belly up at the last minute. The government has been unable to locate and secure the appearance of certain witnesses that are central to the government's case, prosecutor Michael D. Britton wrote in seeking a postponement. But a judge, deciding that Branch had waited long enough for a final disposition of his case, denied the motion and dismissed the murder charge with prejudice, meaning Branch could never be tried again for Cook's death. More gun charges followed, one in Washington, which ended in a mistrial and dismissal, and the other in Maryland, where he was found guilty. Then, in the summer and fall of 1991, 2 slayings occurred that would greatly complicate Branch's life. In July, Nathaniel Matthews, 19, was gunned down near an outdoor basketball court on 14th Street NE in an alleged contract killing over a cocaine debt. In September, Michael Green, 29, was shot in the head and the back on T Street NE, near McKinley High School, when he apparently tried to stop several gunmen who were hunting another man. While the slayings were still being investigated, Branch was implicated in another case, a December 7, 1991, drive-by shooting outside the now-defunct Breezes Metro Club in the 2300 block of Bladensburg Road Northeast, a hot spot for drug-related violence. The victim, John Queen, was seriously wounded. Officer Norma Horn, who was on duty in the area, chased the suspected gunman, but he leaped from the car's passenger side and escaped over a fence. The alleged driver was arrested, however, and Horn was called to testify at his preliminary hearing. While on the witness stand, she later told detectives she suddenly caught sight of the suspected gunman who had fled. She said he was seated among the spectators in the courtroom gallery. Although he was not detained immediately, an arrest warrant was soon issued in his name, Sean Lonte Branch. Prosecutor Kevin F. Flynn, in a court document, called Branch precisely the type of person who would challenge the system by coming into the very courtroom where his crime is the center of attention. Although Branch was indicted on a charge of assaulting Queen with intent to kill, which carries a possible 10 to 30-year prison sentence, Queen told investigators that he had no idea who had attacked him and balked at testifying. Flynn said he promised to arrange police protection for Queen, but Queen declined, saying he was not worried about retaliation. Even without Queen's testimony, Flynn recalled, he still was prepared to put Branch on trial. He said he would rely only on Horn's unorthodox, second sighting identification. The case became more unusual when Flynn, in a pre-trial motion, sought permission to use a locally produced gangsta rap music album as evidence. The recording features an obscenity-laced solo by Branch boasting of ruthless violence, beginning, "Now I'm the little one, but my gun's a lot bigger / I'm a little ass nigger, living by the trigger." Flynn said the lyrics indicated Branch's murderous nature and noted that other courts had allowed such evidence. But defense attorney Douglas J. Wood argued that the song was an artistic expression not meant to be taken literally. A judge rejected Flynn's motion, which Wood recently described as a ludicrous, laughable proposal. Then, because of a legal flaw related to the way in which Horn had identified Branch, the government dropped the case on June 30, 1992. After 3 months in the D.C. jail, Branch went home to his neighborhood. UFFOLO 12F 1992, the Glenn case on July 22, 1992, authorities said. 19-year-old Monty Glenn was running for his life along Hamlin Street NE, chased by a gray Chevrolet Nova carrying 4 men. Glenn recently had robbed a cocaine dealer, according to a detective, and the dealer had put a hit on him. 2 men in the Nova, later alleged to be Branch and Isaiah R. Taylor III, climbed out and pursued Glenn on foot, tackled him at 16th Street NE, and shot him 10 times. Taylor, then 18, Branch and alleged driver Michael N. Douglas, then 19, were arrested within weeks on first-degree murder charges and ordered jailed without bond. The 4th man in the car, Arlen Buddha, now 21, also was arrested, but authorities released him after concluding that he had played no role in the slaying. Police said Buddha then gave them a detailed account of the shooting, implicating Branch, Taylor, and Douglas. The government's case appeared to grow even stronger when Taylor decided to confess, and agreed in a plea bargain to testify against Branch and Douglas at their joint trial. But whatever hope prosecutors had of finally winning a conviction of Branch, it soon evaporated. Buddha, saying he feared being killed, refused to testify before a grand jury or at anybody's trial. And without his testimony, his statement was inadmissible as evidence. In an unusual bit of arm-twisting, prosecutors obtained an indictment accusing Buddha of criminal contempt of court, but he still would not cooperate. His attorney, Antonio M. Jones, said Buddha believed his alternative to a contempt trial would have been a funeral. "It's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6, Jones told the jury in Buddha's case. And Buddha stayed resolutely silent as the panel convicted him. Judge Joan Zeldin, who has scheduled his sentencing for next month, can impose a prison term of any length she chooses. Taylor, meanwhile, changed his mind last spring and backed out of his plea deal, also vowing not to testify against Branch and Douglas. At Taylor's trial, a prosecution witness, Gregory J. Roberts, 19, told jurors that he had seen Taylor, Branch, and Douglas together in Douglas's gray Nova shortly before Glenn's slaying, and had overheard the 3 men discussing where to search for Glenn. SW 4 hours after testifying, Roberts, who had been slated to testify against Branch and Douglas as well, was shot to death near his home, a stone's throw from Montana Terrace. The slaying is unsolved. SW without Roberts, without Buddha, and without Taylor, who was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison, the government's case against Branch and Douglas was in tatters. Their joint trial was set for June 30th last year, but prosecutor Jeffries asked for a postponement. SW4 Douglas and Branch are ruthless, dangerous individuals, Jeffries wrote in her motion. Particularly because of Branch's reputation for dangerousness, the government has encountered significant difficulties in securing the testimony of its witnesses SW, but a judge declined to grant a continuance. Rather than face a jury with a weakened case and risk an acquittal, Jeffries declared herself unready for trial, prompting the judge to throw out the Glenn murder charges against Branch and Douglas. The case was dismissed without prejudice, meaning it can be refiled if police find new evidence. Branch did not go home, however, because the government had taken precautions to ensure that he would stay in jail. Officials said, for nearly 2 years, almost from the night Michael Green was slain near McKinley High School in September 1991, detectives had been trying to build a case against Branch in that killing. At least one witness, a convicted drug dealer, had implicated him. But police did not rush to file charges against him while he was in jail without bond last year in the Glenn homicide. SW4 then. The Glenn case began to crumble, and before it collapsed entirely in June, authorities shifted gears. They had yet to gather enough evidence in the Green investigation to charge Branch with first-degree murder, so they opted for the next best thing, accusing him of second-degree murder, which kept him locked up without bond after the Glenn case was dismissed. We could not risk the danger to the community that Sean Branch presents, said Kevin Olson, a spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office. So rather than wait until the investigation was completely wrapped up, the decision was made to charge him. In July, authorities filed yet another charge, accusing Branch of attempting to shoot a 27-year-old witness in the Glenn case. The alleged target, Daryl Ash, a convicted drug dealer, had been riding in a car with 2 friends at Otis and 14th Streets NE when the 3 were ambushed by a pair of gunmen on August 6, 1992, a few weeks after Glenn's slaying. SW4 Ash, who waited nearly a year before naming Branch as one of the assailants, told police that he had feared being hit if he identified the gunman. Branch went on trial in the case last month and was acquitted March 1st of 3 counts of assault with intent to kill Ash and Ash's companions, verdicts that lawyers on both sides attributed partly to Ash's frightened reluctance to implicate Branch until long after the attack. SW with his trial in the Ash assault out of the way, Branch had only the Green homicide case in front of him this month. And by then, a judge had changed his jail status in the case, setting bond at $25,000. "We were really excited," said Davis, Branch's 24-year-old girlfriend and the mother of one of his children. "I was on the phone, calling bail bondsmen, calling everybody, my mother, Sean's mother. We really thought he was finally coming home, for real. But authorities cut him off at the pass again." On the eve of his acquittal in the Ash assault trial, they charged him with first-degree murder again, this time in the July 1991 slaying of Nathaniel Matthews near the outdoor basketball court on 14th Street NE. He was ordered held without bond. "That case had been in a holding pattern for a long time, if you know what I mean," said a homicide detective. "I think it was all set to go a long time ago, but they held on to it, like an ace in the hole. And so Sean Branch still commutes in a bus cage from the jail to Superior Court, where he is on trial now in the Green homicide. The charge has been upgraded to first-degree murder. I look forward to getting the chance to go to court every day," he said, "just to get out and feel some air." SW4 in what perhaps is a sign of the government's confidence level in this latest go-around with Branch, prosecutor Karen E. Rue offered him an unusual deal last week on the eve of jury selection in his trial. She would drop the first-degree murder charge in the Green slaying if Branch would plead guilty to a lesser offense, not second-degree murder, not manslaughter, but use of a firearm in a crime of violence, punishable by at least 5 years in prison. SW Branch declined to plea bargain. "I think what an offer like that says to Sean Branch is that the government's case against him isn't so terrific," said a defense lawyer who knows him. Branch's trial in the Matthews case is likely a year or more away. Because of the court system's backlog, most major cases take at least that long to reach a jury. "I want to say I've been locked up for a long time, and all I can do is keep the faith and hope that I get out soon and see my family," said Branch in his statement. "I just wish the police would spend their time going after other people who they know are committing crimes." Staff writer Nancy Lewis contributed to this report. Alleged drug gang enforcer Sean Lonte Branch has been under continuous prosecution by the U.S. Attorney's Office in the district for 6 years, and except for 2 pending murder charges, he has prevailed in every case, often after government witnesses refused to cooperate. A look at the crimes in which Branch has been implicated. June 28, 1988, Patrick Cook is fatally stabbed in an apparent drug-related attack in the 1700 block of Montana Avenue Northeast. Branch's murder trial later ends with a deadlocked jury and the case is dismissed. March 18, 1990, Branch is arrested in the 2400 block of 14th Street NE when police find him hiding in a car and discover a pistol in the glove compartment. He is later acquitted of a handgun possession charge. June 20, 1990, Vincent Knight is shot in the 3100 block of Rhode Island Avenue NE and implicates Branch. A charge of assault with a dangerous weapon against Branch is later dropped when Knight recants the identification. February 2, 1991, Branch is charged with carrying a weapon resembling a submachine gun in the 2300 block of 15th Street NE. His trial later ends with a deadlocked jury and the handgun possession charge is dismissed. July 19, 1991, Nathaniel Matthews is shot to death in the 2300 block of 14th Street NE in an alleged contract killing over a cocaine debt. Branch is awaiting trial on a first-degree murder charge. September 11, 1991, Michael Green is fatally shot in the 200 block of T Street NE when he apparently tries to stop several gunmen who are hunting another man. Branch, charged with first-degree murder, is on trial now. December 7, 1991, John Queen is shot in the 2300 block of Bladensburg Road Northeast. A legal flaw is later found in a police officer's identification of Branch as the gunman, and an assault with intent to kill charge is dropped. July 20, 1992, a woman tells police that Branch threatened to kill her family in the 2300 block of 15th Street NE. An obstruction of justice case against Branch is later dismissed when the woman's story changes. July 22, 1992, Monty Glenn is gunned down at Hamlin and 16th Streets NE in an alleged drug-related contract killing. A murder case against Branch is later dropped after a witness is slain and others refuse to testify. August 6, 1992, a Glenn case witness, Daryl Ash, escapes an ambush at 14th and Otis Streets NE, and months afterward identifies Branch as one of the gunmen. A jury later acquits Branch of assault with intent to kill.
Now again, I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions from what you've both seen and heard here today. But it is clear to this journalist that if not for mentors like Taco Montana, who footed the bulk of Sean Branch's legal fees and was so feared that upon seeing him at trial or preliminary exams, witnesses would often recant or refuse to testify. The government would later ban Taco Montana from attending any of Sean Branch's proceedings as witnesses refused to speak or they mysteriously died or disappeared. Or men like his attorney, a Mr. Bernard Grimm, who once said of Branch, "He's certainly not an angel, but he's not the monster that they make him out to be." Rest in peace, Mr. Grimm. I definitely believe you. So it's more than safe for this journalist to say that Sean Lante Branch would have been long dead or underneath the jail if not for the influences of the likes of these men. So whether you believe he's a closeted bisexual entrepreneur, a jailhouse snitch who informed on fellow inmates to receive leniency from the warden in a bid to get an early release, or a murderous ex-felon with a thirst for blood. Or maybe you just think he's simply a cool punk who became traumatized by his environment, or just a mellow, average young black man trying to make it in this world. One thing is clear to this journalist, and that is that there is a clear misrepresentation of the Teflon Suspect. Believe it or not. Peace. What if I died tonight? Lord, what if I died tonight? Nigga, fuck my life. For real, nigga. Fuck family and fuck frenemies. And death the only people I respect to be my enemies. At least they ain't pretend to me and hide their hand. Niggas will stab you in your back and still say they're your friend, just to try to play you again. What you think a nigga stupid for 30 pieces of silver? These niggas turning to Judas. Got me loading 30 pieces to shoot it. He acting clueless. He must have been sniffing cocoa. He think a nigga foolish. And bitch, if we was crew, you coulda asked me for it. Instead you set me up to take it, tried to blast me for it. That's why my heart cold, nothing goes past me, know it. And fuck love, I don't know him, so don't ask me to show it. Bitch, I ain't sympathetic, ho, ain't no sympathy, I'm forever wild. Babies and old ladies, if not for them, I'd never smile. I've been out the way, cause my spirit is dark and feeling fire. You don't know me, then don't approach me. What if I die tonight?
If that bag is right, I will put that little nigga Sean Branch in my pocket.
Word. Word.
I've seen him. First way too short, and he's gonna be too light for what I'm gonna bring to him. I've seen that little nigga in the videos. He's little.
He little as shit. Yeah, he a midget.
Yeah, he's little. Compared to me, he's little. Put one of these hammers on his ass. You know, DC always thought they could